Greetings, Legunus, Arndale here. So this is going to be Model Showcase 18, and in it we will be featuring the models from our 40K Path to Glory campaign. That some of which we've been using in the previous one that I just barely uploaded, and some of them also into the next one. So you'll be seeing some of the models that we haven't even shown in the next Path to Glory yet. Alright, well, with no more ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so first off, we have the Servitors. No longer will we be having guardsmen servitors. Now we'll be having these guys. Alright. So, on this particular guy, he does have his servo arm and all that rather than a heavy weapon, as has been the case with my servitors in this game. One thing though, you can probably, by looking at him, tell that this isn't supposed to be a servitor model. This was actually originally an orc boy. And I'm legitimately nicknaming these the junkyard servitors. Literally just pieced together from who the frag knows what. But the head itself is actually that of an aggressor marine. On all of them, you can see that this is the case. And then for the servo arms, I just, to add a little extra flair, I was like, hey, why not make them bits of chainsword? I did want the cording to be more than just red. However, I'm defaulting to just red right now for simplicity's sake. So I guess it sort of does look like, they're just wrapped in entrails and stuff like that, which for servitors, I suppose, isn't exactly far off. Considering that they're just considered meat bags and whatnot, but, there you go. However, with Legunus servitors, they're a little bit different, but I'll get into the lore and all that on Legunus in this particular regard later. Okay, now you can see I sort of embraced a different design here. I went a little bit over the, an over-the-shoulder servo arm, like you see on Tech Price and Tech Marines and whatnot. And I thought that would really, give a differential, a different kind of flair and whatnot. And as you can see, that servo arm is, not particularly in good condition. Still going with the junkyard servitor kind of look and feel. I myself particularly like how it turned out, considering the direction I was going with it, with the whole junkyard servitor thing and whatnot. Okay, finally we have this last one here, and this particular last one, I just went with the a bit of a power sword for the top, where the flat end, because it was I think it used to be either the front end of a halberd or a falchion, but it was a power blade that had a flat end on one side. So I thought, hey, that's a an interesting twist. Not only is it going to be a servo arm that can pick things up without cutting it, but the opposite end of the servo arm, the top part, can sharp part can go stabbing through things. Not to mention there's a point on it, so he can just go stabbing with it and whatnot. And one hand is replaced by a little bit of a chain sword. Not that he can use that particularly in combat or anything, but just added for effect and flair and whatnot. And I did my best, to give each one of these servitors sort of a different kind of look and whatnot, so that they were, unique in their own right. And as you can see, all of them do come with the 4 aggressor heads that come in the pack. So, me, myself, I like having my Marines with helmets. Well, I had some spare heads that were really, looked bionic and whatnot, so it was a perfect fit for me, just to slap those on the servitors. And not to mention, there happened to be 4, which was the perfect amount. Okay, this is an obliterator I do believe you have seen before and possibly painted as well. Not in my model showcases, but in one of the Path to Glory missions, possibly both the previous 2. In any case, though, I figure, give them a full model showcase so that y'all can give a good, long, good look at him. And I created these guys, and naturally XL Pudding painted them, which is pretty much the case with all of these models. Okay, next up here we have the head collector. And naturally, as that little bin you can see on top of them, that's the reason why he has that name. And plus, you know, his melee weapons here, you know, one of the reasons why he's called the head collector. You know, an extended claw out on his power fist there for lopping heads off. Or if he just feels like doing it in a more gruesome manner, he just uses his chain swords there. You know, that whole gig. Not to mention the flamethrower coming out. And you have seen this guy before in the Path to Glory. And not to mention, I did do a previous model showcase featuring all three of these guys, but they weren't painted back then. So, yeah. And then you can see the very bottom head in the case there is a guardsman head. You know, it's all melted down. You know, well, the flesh rotted away and whatnot. And in case you're wondering about that Necron there, why it hasn't teleported back to its tomb world and all of that, that has to do with the fact that when this particular obliterator took down this Necron, it infected it with the very thing that infects the obliterator and whatnot, which then prevented most of it from teleporting back. Of course, the bits that aren't featured here, you know, the arms and whatnot, they all teleported back, but this particular part didn't manage to. What's more is, this particular Necron, its mind sort of became unlocked, because during the process from going from Necron tier to Necrons, little Necron warriors like this were not deemed all that valuable. So they were, you know, sort of just, their minds were suppressed. And this guy's mind has, you know, sort of unlocked and merged with the obliterator. So his body is just trapped there, and his mind is sort of merged with the obliterators, and that's like sort of this really weird symbiotic relationship between the two of them. But yeah, and as well for this particular obliterator and his lore, the Necron's regenerative ability has also somewhat passed on to him, which also has passed on another certain level of madness, which is why he's also such an avid head collector. Alright, last among the obliterators, but certainly not least, is the leader of the squad. Or at least, you know, generally leader of the squad. With 8th edition, they don't get sergeants. Well, they don't get champions, anything like that anymore. They're just 3 obliterators. But back in 7th edition, when I made these guys, you know, this was the leader of the squad. And he's sitting there triumphant, standing over a Marine that he just killed in one-on-one combat, who thought he could engage him in melee combat and win. Now, what you have to know here, this was also made, you know, it was made back in 7th edition, back when obliterators still had power fists. And they, in that particular area, in melee, they've been heavily nerfed. They just have essentially close combat weapons now. And they're just solely based on range, while mutilators get to be the exclusive melee specialists in this area. Though mutilators, I think, were still definitely better before in melee and whatnot. I mean, versus each other, mutilators would definitely, I think, have had a better chance due to their variety of melee weapons. But now it's like no chance whatsoever and whatnot. And as we get over to this side, you can see, you know, as the Marine was cut in half, you know, his entrails just hanging out there. I think this turned out absolutely fabulous. I love how well it turned out. And you can see his pistol arm, you know, severed there, just laying there. You can see the other half of the chainsword by his leg right there. And then you can see flecks of blood in the grass all along here. So you can see the sheer level of detail that XL Pudding put into this. And then on this side, the other, you know, the hand still grasping the chainsword tightly on this side. That whole gig. This whole thing just turned out really, really sweetly. If you want to know the weapons I used for this obliterator, that bottom weapon is ironically a Grey Knight side cannon, I do believe, or it's a silencer, one of the two. And then that upper weapon right there, that's obviously a Chaos Flamethrower. And then right there, that weapon, that's closest to the obliterator's head. That is some random weapon that fell off a tank from MechWarrior, and I decided to use it. So, in any case, and then you can still see the blood on that extended claw coming out of that power fist on his other arm there. You know, still fresh from the kill he just made, as he literally just, you know, ripped off the arms off of this guy and then ripped him in half, and now standing triumphant over his corpse and all of that. Okay, and next up we have my chaplain, which I just barely got in the Path to Glory mission. I do believe he is my most recent acquisition that you haven't yet seen in the third Path to Glory, and so this is sort of a little bit of a sneak peek and whatnot. So I'm just going to give you a good long look at him. You can see his plasma gun there, heavily decorated with, you know, the purity seal there and that, you know, that scroll. And then the actual Crozius. I love how the Crozius turned out there. Perfectly with the skull intertwined with all those spiky bits around it. And just, you know, the guy, you know, decently decorated and whatnot. And then I decided to go for a little bit of realism on the back there with those ammo packs. You know, being able to swap out power cells for his plasma gun. Well, combi plasma. And then, you know, actual rounds for the combi bolter. Well, not combi bolter, but other half of the freaking gun. Anyway, that actually requires hard rounds and whatnot. Oh, and in case you're wondering about all the iconography, if you're not familiar with Legunus, Legunus stands separate from the Imperium. However, they do pretend to be part of the Imperium when it serves their needs, and many of them heavily study certain factions within the Imperium and use their heraldry to sort of represent that and whatnot. Not to mention it confuses the frag out of their enemies when they see a chaplain like this marching onto the field of battle with a Space Wolf icon right there, then a Dark Angel icon in the back, and you know those factions don't get along. And then, obviously, that's Blood Angel right there, right next to yet another Space Wolf symbol, and another Blood Angel symbol up top, just above the, oh, I forget what it's called, but the Bowl of Blood. And then one last Dark Angel symbol right there on the shoulder. And then finally you get over here, and on the plasma gun itself, amongst all the purity seals, is sort of the signature of Legunus. Yes, that symbol is of the, among the Ordos, that's of the Xenos, the Ordo Xenos. So, essentially anti-alien. But the point being is that it's of an I, a single, you know, letter I and whatnot. And that's sort of the point of it all. Whenever Legunus essentially takes to the field of battle, they're always going to be having, you know, somewhere on their iconography, they're going to try and have the letter I on there, even if it's not the plain letter, unstylized I that is most representative of their order. The Sigillite, who was the original user of the letter I in the lore of Warhammer 40k, that we've, you know, seen thus far, he has a very stylized I that he uses. Whereas in this particular instance, with Legunus, it is an unstylized I, just the regular Roman numeral 1, which stands for, you know, it's the iconic symbol of Legion Unus, or Unus, Legunus, which is Legion of 1. So they are one in will. That kind of thing. So, in case you didn't know, or you had forgotten, there's a refresher as to why that's essentially, there's always going to be a letter I somewhere on pretty much all of these guys. And yeah, that essentially concludes this model showcase. One thing, I have magnetized both the combi plasma to the arm and then both arms. So it's all removable. In case for any reason I ever want to completely swap out those arms or whatever, but mostly the only thing I'd be swapping on this chaplain would be the combi plasma itself. if I ever just wanted to, give them a different weapon or whatever. Because in Path to Glory, you don't have to worry about points, so I just decked this chaplain out with a weapon I thought would have some serious AP and whatnot, rather than just firing non-AP rounds at greater, more rounds at 24 inches. Now I can fire a round, a bolter round and a plasma round at 24 inches, and then 2 of each at 12. So I myself am much more favorable to that concept. And since I didn't have to pay for it, I mean, it's like, seriously, why not? In any case, if you have any comments or anything like that, please then leave them down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. And if you like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, please let me know why. And if you're new to the channel and genuinely enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing. In any case, don't get into too much trouble or do. It's always up to you. Toodles!